Although we closed out our last episode setting the hook in relatively calm water at Port McNeill, the weather went through a pretty good change overnight, with strong southeasterlies blowing straight into the Anchorage, creating a really uncomfortable swell that at times would even have waves crashing over the bow. Tidal currents would turn us sideways to the swell, causing us to roll dramatically, and just made for a really uncomfortable sleepless night. So next morning we pulled up the anchor and went into the marina for some relatively calm water.
We got water leaking all over, so Matt's got to pull out the ceiling panels, see what's going on out there.
Rainbow chasing. If you ever spend time cruising in bear country, you'll find that all the trash receptacles are made to be very difficult to open. This is to keep the animals out of the garbage. On Port McNeill, we did the usual normal task that we seem to always be doing of laundry. And while we're waiting for that to go through, we found a place to sit down and watch one of the World Series games between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Dodgers. On our way out of Port McNeill, we had a really cool visit by a whole bunch of porpoises. We're really not sure what kind these are. It was a big pack of them that were exhibiting some interesting behavior, and you can't really hear it in the video, but their breathing made for some very interesting noise. Kind of like little miniature whale spouts, but a whole bunch all in succession.
Beautiful, quiet Anchorage. Except for, I guess, these little fishing lodges running their generators.
There are quite a few little floating structures like these, both for apparently fishing lodges that are active during the summer more so, but also a number of fish farms that were just kind of anchored out in different places and partially tied to the shore.
Cleaned up after breakfast and we're getting ready to take off. I think we're gonna pull the anchor and head out to Campbell River. Beautiful day. Quiet bay. It was really nice last night, actually. Incredibly pleasant. Ready, Captain?
Want to see how bad the engine's smoking these days?
I don't know.
Definitely something we're going to need to address when we get back to civilization. And the fuel sheet.
Did you just jinx it?
It's just that the furnace and the engine fight each other for fuel. And the starter. Here's all the problems with our engine we need to address before we continue on our journey. Just got to bleed the air out. The furnace is drawn into there. Come on, baby. It's almost there. Yeah, it doesn't do this every time, but when it does, it's a pain. This time we got it.
Nice.
You'll see how the smoke is coming out of it though. It's worse on startup. It gets better once it's going. So we always fly an anchor ball when we're anchored, mostly because it's legally required. But amazingly, most boats don't. A really easy thing to do that if you do run into any trouble with someone hitting you or whatever, like we've experienced, it doesn't become the technical detail that their attorneys use to give you some of the fault. That's how easy it is to put away.
Which the Coast Guard was happy to hear we do put up an anchor ball.
Yeah.
And had one up.
Had one up. We were able to show them pictures of us and other anchorages with it up. And even in a little place like this where we don't expect to see any traffic, you know, I just always put it up. It's just a good habit, I think. It's really easy to do. It took me less than a minute to take it down there. The other thing we've got to do is get our snubber off. This is what gives us a little bit of shock absorption. It also lowers the connection point because the snubber's hooked up to the tang down low on the bow. So I think it helps a lot, especially when we're in really rough sea state with just the angle of attack on the chain, and it absorbs that shock load from the chain going right to the boat. And then it also takes the load off of the bowsprit, so it's not really where we want the load for the anchor. I'll show you really quick. This is how much is left of our yellow paint. You can barely tell that that's yellow. We use the rub your balls with grease phrase. So yellow is the second one, RY. Blue would be the next one after that. Each of those is at 30 feet, so I only had 60 feet out because we're only in like 15 feet of water, 15, 20 feet of water here. And also we didn't have a lot of swing room, so I didn't want to have a lot of chain out and risk swinging into the rocks that are over there or these pylons that are right in front of us there. So yeah, so we now have 60 feet to pull up at this point. You'll notice the chain slipping on our Gypsy quite a bit here. And I'm mitigating on it by giving some force on the other end of the chain as it comes through the Gypsy. This is just one of those minor problems that we've been dealing with over time. I think there's a few causes of it. One is we don't currently have a swivel and we tend to get some twist in the chain, especially if we're anchored quite a while in a tidal area and the boat's swinging around in 360-degree circles repeatedly. I've tried some cheaper galvanized swivels, but the swivels scare me a little bit, and I'm just not sure about the expensive stainless ones, which is probably what we're going to need to go to. Another cause might be that the Gypsy's wearing down a little bit just from use over time. It's definitely doesn't have the original shape it did when she was brand new. And then another issue is the weight of the chain doesn't really pull down as it should into the locker. Point, I just kind of go easy and it'll get into position.
I don't think I can hear you when you're talking.
You can't see my face, so it doesn't matter. We're ready to go. All right. That way.
Your tag for your jeans are still on.
I missed one. Actually, that's just the style. I meant to do that.
Yeah. And we're off.
These days. really amazes me how creative people can get with some of these houses, just built up on rocks on random islands. Another phenomenon you'll see around British Columbia very frequently are log rafts, where they've just simply lashed a whole lot of timber together into basically the equivalent of a big barge and tow that with sometimes just one tugboat, sometimes they have two or three, moving along at just 2 knots, sometimes even only 1.5 knots. I think these guys have to have a lot of patience for this job. They seem to take them pretty long distances sometimes.